In Palestine, Israeli occupation forces continue to intensify its attacks on several areas of central and southern Gaza. The German government requested support of the army to face the floods sparked by the continuous rains of the last days. In Russia, Ukrainian armed forces shelled the center of the city of Belgorod, killing 12 adults and 2 children. More than 100 people are reported injured. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Israeli occupation army continues to intensify its attacks on several areas of the central and southern Gaza Strip. Local media reported that Tel Aviv regime forces dropped bombs on the New Sarat refugee camp in the southern town of Rafah, killing and wounding several people. A journalist and several members of his family were identified among those killed during the raids in New Sarat. Attacks by the Israeli army were also reported around the city of Khan Yunis and the Bureish refugee camp. In the past days, Israel had announced the deployment of 30,000 additional military personnel in Gaza to strengthen its ground operations in those areas of the enclave. The Palestinian economy collapsed during the last quarter of the year due to the Israeli aggression against Gaza and the West Bank. The Central Statistics Bureau pointed out that during that period, the GDP fell by more than 80%, while the unemployment rate rose by more than 74%. At the same time, the Bureau noted that the decrease in the gross domestic product is a consequence of the destruction of the territory in addition to the systematic incursions in the West Bank. The spokesman for the Regional Office of the United Nations Development Program, Abdallah Al-Dahdari, detailed that the losses are immeasurable given that the damage to infrastructure has destroyed almost 19 years of human development. The United Nations reported that more than 100,000 displaced Palestinians arrived in Rafah, southern Gaza Strip, in the last few days. Thousands of families are camped in overcrowded and unsanitary conditions after losing their homes to Israeli bombardment. The displaced were arriving at the site in trucks, cars, or on foot, carrying the few belongings they managed to save. Many of them did not find a place in the already overwhelmed shelters and claimed that there are no safe places. The unprecedented Israeli air and ground siege against the Palestinian population has displaced some 85% of the 2.3 million residents of the Gaza Strip. Displaced Palestinians living in a camp in southern Gaza's Rafah say they long for an end to the conflict between Israel and Hamas so they can return home, while vast areas of northern Gaza is in ruins and largely deserted. Israeli airstrikes and ground combat remains.
We hope there will be an independent Palestinian state and for conflicts to end. We hope the best for everyone. We are peaceful Muslims. We hope in the new year they declare a lasting ceasefire and an end to the war in 2024. So Israeli forces would withdraw to its position as it was the case before October the 7th. We hope to return to our homes, which we still don't know if they were destroyed or not.
2023 was the worst in my life. It was a year of destruction and devastation. We went through a tragedy that even our grandparents didn't experience. Our grandparents convened to lose what they have went through, but it can be compared to wars. We were displaced from a place to another, from Gaza City to the central region to Rafah. We went through hell and encountered death itself.
South Africa on Friday filed a lawsuit with the United Nations highest court accusing Israel of genocide against Palestinians in Gaza and asking it to order the Israel regime to stop its attacks. It is the first such lawsuit filed with the court in connection with the current war. The South African filing with the ICJ alleges that Israel's acts and omissions are genocidal in nature as they are committed with the intent to destroy the Palestinians of Gaza as part of the broader Palestinian national, racial and ethnic group. South Africa has sharply criticized Israel's military campaign in Gaza. Its President Cyril Ramaphosa has compared Israel's policies towards the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank to the past racial segregation regime of South African apartheid. A hearing on this request is likely to be held in the coming days or weeks. He rejects such allegations. Rain, coastal flooding and waves as tall as 25 feet were expected along parts of the west coast on Friday, a day after giant waves pummeled the California shoreline and prompted some evacuation warnings. In southern California, forecasters predict a wave of up to 25 feet and said that the threat of significant coastal flooding would last into Saturday night. For beaches in San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties, northwest of Los Angeles, high surf and coastal flood warnings were in effect through 10 p.m. local time. On Saturday, the Weather Service Office in Los Angeles told surfers and beachgoers that the risk of drowning was high, and the California State Park System warned outdoor enthusiasts to be careful along the coast. More than a dozen state parks and beaches in California were fully or partially closed because of bad weather. Germany's government requested support to the army to face the floods in the country after the continuous rains of the last days. The authorities informed that the Lower Saxony region of Germany asked for support to reinforce the dikes in addition to the evacuation work. The armed forces detailed that they will provide at least 6 helicopters to stabilize the dikes and those contain the flooding of the rivers in order to reach the places that are difficult to access. Specialists forecast that the rains will continue with rainfall of up to 40 liters per square meter for the next few days. Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back from the South. The president of Argentina, Javier Milei, has formally announced his country will not join the BRICS bloc after having been invited to become a member in the bloc's last meeting past August. The president has sent letters to his counterparts from Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, current members of the international organization, in which he stresses that he does not consider it appropriate for Argentina to join BRICS as a full member as of January 1st, 2024. Last August 23rd, at the 15th BRICS summit held in South Africa, the leaders of the economic bloc announced the decision to include 6 new countries in the membership: Iran, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. However, after rejecting the entry to the BRICS group, Milei has remarked in his letters that he would continue to maintain commercial ties with the 5 full members of the bloc. In Argentina, the decree of necessity and urgency promoted by Milei's administration begins its implementation 8 days after it was published in the National Gazette. The decree regulates the economy, declares a public emergency in several branches of the economy and institutions until December 31st, 2025, and establishes the reform of the state. Our correspondent in Buenos Aires, Carolina Silvestre, with the details.
Despite the rejection of part of the Argentine society, the decision of the national executive power, which violates the South American country's constitution, came into force.
We are concerned and against the decree, both in terms of form and substance, in terms of content. I mainly want to emphasize that the form is very important. It is an unconstitutional decree that looks for reforms that are neither necessary nor urgent for this period. We have had a democratic system for 40 years with divided powers, and the truth is that we are going through is an outrage without words.
With the modification of regulations established by the decree and new measures, Argentinians lose hundreds of rights. Exports, imports, and prices are liberalized, and the tax burden on the working class is increased.
There's not a single measure, not a single article aimed at thinking about the development of the country's industry, which we know is what will improve the socio-economic situation for all workers. Nor is there any specific measure on behalf of the popular economy sector.
Economic, social, and political structural reforms that have strong impact on various sectors of society, benefiting only concentrated domestic and foreign economic powers.
Clearly, the laws that are being introduced, the omnibus law, the decrees of necessity and urgency, all have names and surnames, and they are for the benefit of the most powerful sectors of this country, and clearly not us. In fact, we are the most affected. 120% devaluation fell on our shoulders and our backs. That is the reality. No need to give it much more thinking.
The increased debt, layoff, poverty, hunger, and the handover of our sovereignty and natural resources reveal that the outlook is and will be alarming and convulsive in the short term.
The context is distressing from all points of view, and since the ballot, the days have been running out, and the scenario is really catastrophic, especially for the social movements.
As workers of the popular economy, we are afraid of what will happen in February, April and March, when the kids start going to school, when the cost of a bus ticket reach 800 pesos, when they won't have enough money to buy their school supplies and to eat.
And although the decree still have to pass through Parliament next March to be approved or rejected, and the judiciary will have yet defined its constitutionality, it will remain in force until the legislature and the judiciary issue their rulings.
Carolina Silvestre, TeleSUR, Buenos Aires.
The Mexican government started operations of a mega pharmacy for the distribution of medicines to public hospitals and health centers in the country. This Friday, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador announced the inauguration of the mega pharmacy based in Huehuetoca, state of Mexico, for the distribution of medicines nationwide. In this sense, he highlighted that it will be the largest in the country, which will have all the medicines required by the people. The mega pharmacy will not only store drugs, but it will also be a central base in control of the records of the medicine stored in different hospitals.
Es una farmacia muy grande.
Yes, it is a very large pharmacy. It has almost 50 hectares of space.
De casi
Besides having 50 hectares, it has 9 roofed hectares.
Son 9 hectáreas techadas.
We are talking about 90,000 roofed square meters.
90,000 metros cuadrados.
There are about 6 or 7 roofed plinths.
Sería como unos 6, 7 zócalos.
The pharmacy is about 5,500 roofed square meters.
Son como 5,500 metros.
It is a very large, because the rest of the installation will store all the medicines.
Muy grande. Porque el resto es para almacenar.
So, the pharmacy is large. Large.
Entonces la farmacia es grande.
And it will facilitate the distribution of medicines throughout the health sector.
Se distribuye en el sector salud.
In Mexico, a caravan of migrants advances through the state of Veracruz on its way to the U.S. border. The group is made up of at least 128 children, 220 women, and 185 men who have decided to leave their country. Due to low temperatures, drizzle, and fog in the area, the local authorities have set up an auditorium so that these people can find protection if necessary. At the same time, they made it clear that they will provide them with humanitarian aid and free transit, but they cannot provide them with transportation. In this context, the Mexican government announced it continues its efforts to address the migratory situation and stressed that most of the migrants crossing the country to the United States come from third countries. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. On Saturday, the Ukrainian armed forces shelled the center of the city of Belgorod. The Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations reported that 12 adults and 2 children were killed in the attack. The attack on a residential area left over 108 people wounded, among them 15 minors. The Ministry of Emergency Situations noted that all the fires caused by the bombing were put out. The governor of the border region, Vyacheslav Gladkov, asked residents of the city to leave their homes and go to shelters. Lakov noted that the town of Urasovo was also hit. The shelling of this other locality left no casualties, but caused damage to about 20 houses and a power line. On the orders of Russian President Vladimir Putin, a group of doctors headed by Health Minister Mikhail Murashko and a brigade of the Ministry of Emergency Situations went to the city to provide assistance to the affected people. The West aims to asphyxiate the Russian economy with a new package of sanctions. Russia, for its part, responds to European measures and pressure. From Moscow, our correspondent Oleg Jasinski tells us in detail.
Russia restricted the entry of several representatives of European Union countries in response to another sanction package.
In response to these hostile and illegitimate actions, we significantly expand the ban list of representatives of European institutions and countries.
The Foreign Ministry stressed that Moscow will respond quickly and appropriately to any hostile actions by the West. The day before, the European Council approved a new 12th package of sanctions against Russian imports and exports, in particular the supply of diamonds, aluminum products, copper wire, chemicals, technology and software licenses.
Who leave the market, sell or transfer assets, it all depends on the negotiations. But there was not, and there is not, a confiscation process.
According to Russian President Vladimir Putin, the sanctions have a boomerang effect on the West as the Russian economy grew by 3.5% of GDP in 2023.
We should close 2023 with a 3.5% increase in GDP. Russia's foreign debt has been reduced from 46 billion to 32 billion. And the profits of Russian companies have risen by more than 24%.
On December the 18th, the European Union approved the 12th sanction package, which for the first time included the possibility of confiscating the financial assets of Russian legal or natural person to compensate European companies whose property in the Eurasian country was eventually transferred to the state or to Russian companies.
Oleg Jasinski, TeleSUR, Moscow.
Burundi's President Evariste Ndayishimiye recently gave statements against same-sex marriage, calling it an abominable practice and advocating for the stoning of gay couples, citing religious reasons. The president, known for his conservative Christian views, previously called for homosexuals to be banished and treated as outcasts. This statement comes in reaction as the global discourse on LGBTQ+ rights has seen some notable developments, such as Pope Francis' declaration on December 18th regarding the blessing of homosexual couples. However, implementing such changes globally is a complex endeavor, despite the Vatican's guidance. The ability to enforce a shift in mentality and impose measures across all Catholic communities proved challenging. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.